The purpose of this presentation is to provide a user-friendly resource and general guidance to the Program Office Contracting Officer's representatives who compile the necessary elements of a purchase request package. This information is targeted to define the independent government cost estimate, when it's needed, who prepares it, and the benefits of creating an accurate and useful IGCE and statement of work. The government utilizes the IGCE as one of the integral tools of the acquisition package. Throughout the acquisition process, COs and CORs use the IGCE to analyze the consistency of the contractor's costs and associated technical approach, to assess the contractor's understanding of the government need, and to determine price reasonableness. The IGCE is the government's best estimate to project pricing for the contemplated contract period. The IGCE is a procurement-sensitive document, and access to it shall be on a need-to-know basis. The Program Office is responsible to prepare the IGCE. The Contracting Office does not have the technical expertise to look ahead and understand how to move a project downstream. This requires intrinsic knowledge that technical experts in the Program Office owns. This is also why the project management role is solidly in the Program Office. Acquisition experts are skilled in the acquisition process from cradle to grave and lack expertise in the varied functions that Indian Affairs has responsibility over, whether it's running schools, implementing forestry programs, or doing probate work. If we want to buy a computer, we seek assistance from our IT group, as we have no idea what system capabilities are needed or what functionalities will allow us to get the job done. The IGCE is a valuable tool used to ensure that final contract price is fair and reasonable. The better you understand the marketplace, the better you'll be able to make decisions that will enable you to meet the needs of the government at a reasonable price. The IGCE is an essential element of the procurement request package. It's used to compare against the technical approach to ensure that the proposed labor breakdown is responsive to the statement of work, and for budgeting purposes to ensure that sufficient funds are committed to the particular acquisition. FAR 7105 establishes that budget estimates are needed as part of the acquisition planning process and references the IGCE as a comparison tool in simplified acquisition procedures, in sealed bidding, and in negotiated procurements. FAR 15404 references IGCE in both price and cost analysis, and a corresponding cost estimate is implied for all acquisitions. FAR Part 36 also requires preparation of the government estimate for construction and A&E contracts. FAR 7.103 requires the contracting officer to review the acquisition history of supplies and services and a description of the supplies, including, when necessary for adequate description, a picture, drawing, diagram, or other graphic representation. This is to ensure that prior prices are considered in estimating the price of the current acquisition. GSA directs and manages the Federal Supply Schedule program that provides federal agencies with a simplified process to obtain commonly used supplies and services at prices associated with volume buying. The Federal Supply Schedule and GSA Advantage are great resources from which to obtain published pricing. This slide shows the basic process to develop a services contract IGCE. For supplies, the estimator would simply structure the item to be procured and the associated estimated pricing based on market research. The major price component on this service contract structure is labor, with indirect, other direct costs, and profit applied to buttress the pricing structure. The estimator should have considered historical pricing and any changes in the market, current levels of competition in the market and how it will likely affect price, how changing the timing of the acquisition can affect price due to trends in supply and demand, what firms are expected to respond to the solicitation, and how their estimated prices will affect the estimate, whether delivery or performance schedule adversely affects estimated price, and ways to improve the risk potential offerers face from the demands of the schedule. One of the major elements of the IGCE is a direct correlation to the schedule and the statement of work. The statement of work is a source document that defines the government's need for the service or supplies. The IGCE should match Section B of the solicitation and correlate pricing by CLIN and mirror tasks delineated in the schedule. It's important to note that the IGCE is not the lowest or highest possible estimated price. but the best estimate of what potential vendors may propose based on the anticipated technical approach and cost structures. There should be sufficient rationale and assumptions to determine price differences between a quality IGCE and a proposed price structure. The level of effort is the number of labor hours anticipated to complete the tasks in the statement of work. Labor costs for option periods should include an escalation rate, considering inflation, to make a realistic pricing estimate. LOE is typically obtained from current or past contracts of similar size and scope. One of the key decisions to be made by the Corps is the level of expertise needed in service contracts. This slide provides a tool to utilize to establish potential labor categories and can help structure the format of the IGCE. Once this is done, the LOE and projected hourly rate can be placed in a matrix format to build an estimated labor pricing structure. Some of the common issues encountered with IGCEs are not all items being procured are accounted for, as identified in Section B of the solicitation, IGCEs not being revised despite many iterations or changes in the statement of work, and using a preferred vendor's quote as the sole basis for the cost estimate. A weak statement of work and or IGCE may lead to delivery delays and other performance issues. Some best practices to keep in mind are to ensure that all cost elements correlate directly to the contract tasks to be supported, document data source, assumptions and constraints, update IGCE when any new cost or price information is obtained or requirements are changed, and do not reveal information to anyone that may give any one vendor an unfair competitive advantage. You can see this example provides a suggested format for a labor hour or time and materials type of contract. Again, a key element is for the program office to determine the LOE and fixed hourly rate through market research. Many times hourly rates can be obtained through the federal supply schedules or from historical pricing. The estimator can also use salary surveys or government pay scales as a labor cost basis. Always document these decisions in writing. For task or delivery orders, utilize the prices in Section B of the IDIQ contract for each applicable labor category. Again, Service Contract Act and Davis-Bacon wages apply for construction and A&E contracts. Estimates should be documented to show all parameters, assumptions, descriptions, methods, and calculations used in the development process. Documentation should clearly identify source for the data, explain why particular methods were chosen, and why these methods are reasonable. Suggested IGCE documentation includes a cover page, a summary, estimator program team, the project description, and estimating methods. IGCEs may be sent to the CO in paper or electronic format. Regardless of the method submitted, the documentation should allow any user to trace the data, calculations, modeling assumptions, and rationale back to the source document for verification and validation. The documentation should describe the cost estimating process and methods so that an individual unfamiliar with the program can easily understand what was done and replicate it. IGCE with the statement of work are integral tools in the acquisition planning process. Done correctly, they pave the way for a successful procurement placement action and trouble-free contract administration. If these tools are completed poorly, the result often leads to poor contract performance with increased risk and uncertainty. These documents are the foundation of the procurement planning process, and the time and effort employed pays off proportionally on the backside. If you have any questions regarding IGCE or any part of the procurement process, please contact your acquisition professional.